Hello, everyone. This is New York City Radio. I'm your host, Tom Seymour, and I'm here with Mr. Mel Johnson Jr. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Tom.
So the theater buffs out there would probably most know you from Jekyll and Hyde on Broadway or Lion King or
Well, I've done a lot of that. Most recently, Jekyll and Hyde, we had the tour before we came to Broadway last year, and we were on Broadway for a short period of time. But people who've seen Lion King, over the years, maybe they were fortunate to catch me in it. I was playing Mufasa, the
oh wow.
father. Yeah, it was great.
So now you've been doing theater for a long time now.
Yeah, I grew up here in New York and went to the High School of Performing Arts, Fame, and then I went to Hofstra University and was a theater major, and that's what I was doing. I was lucked out. I was started out at regional theaters like the Hartford Stage Company, and
Yeah, which I worked the security desk there about a decade ago, so we had a that was kind of cool actually.
yeah, and so I toured around the country, and then I said, well, what's going on for me here in New York? And so it's stage and singing, acting. So I've been fortunate. I've done about 7 Broadway shows, and in the middle of that, I went out to LA to visit friends and lost my apartment in Brooklyn, and I got stuck out there, and that's when I started doing movies.
Well, and that's the thing too. I definitely want to talk about. I want to talk more about the theater, but I was introduced to you at a friend of ours, Professor Bruce Brooks. He had an art opening, and he was like, "You gotta meet, Mel." He was in Total Recall, and I was like, "Wait a minute." I was like, "No way." And he was like, "Yeah, he played Penny the cab driver." I was like, "No way," because I just grew up with that. That was so iconic to me.
It was a great thing for me. It was great fun. It was a special piece. I mean, that's why it's still out there, in the airwaves, on the films, and they keep showing it. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Now, you know, you was that the kind of thing you kind of just stumbled into, or
Oh
how
no,
did
no,
how
no,
did
no.
that?
It I tell this story to young actors all over the place. I mean, I got it the old-fashioned way. My agent called me, said you have an audition. It was funny. I had been out there doing theater, and I got this call. Just got a good agent, so I was going up for some things. I was going up for this Stallone movie, Lockup or Lockout or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. And I read it, and I didn't particularly care. I was, it was, the typical stereotype black character, and I said, ugh. And so then, the sort of various next week, I got the script for Total Recall, and I started reading the first pages, and I got to my character, and it said Benny, Black Jivester, and I took the script and threw it across the room, and I said, oh.
I was just trying to avoid this, and
Yes,
now I
and
get
then
it
and
again.
then I picked it up and I said, "Well, let me read it." I didn't know Arnold was involved or
Right, right.
Verhoeven was directing, and I started reading this thing and I went, "Whoa, this is great!" I mean, it was. I mean, it's a great role. It's a
Amazing.
great film, and so I auditioned for it, and the last part of this, and the audition went well. I mean, it was one of these things. I auditioned one day. It was fortuitous. They called me the first time I was out of town, and so I think they saw everybody in Hollywood, and then they called me again, and I went in one day with Verhoeven and the casting director. That was it. And he said, "Can you come back from screen test the next day?" It was just Verhoeven, the director, and the casting director, and Paul Verhoeven was at the camera, working the camera
Doing the test
for the
audition.
test, and I was jumping around, and he was going, hold off, let me. He was unplugging the camera, and so I didn't hear anything, and I went for a couple 3 weeks. Usually these things happen quickly, and my agent called and said, "No, you're still an offer is pending." I said, "Oh, great." So I'm on the plane. I got the role. I'm on the plane going to Mexico because we shot the whole thing in Mexico City. I'm on the plane, sitting there going to do the movie, and these 2 young teenage girls walk up the aisle on the plane, and they see me sitting there, and they go, "Oh, you're playing Benny." And I went,
Uh,
yeah. And they said, we're the director's daughters, and we picked you. And I went, what? So you have no idea who's in control of your career.
Wow.
He wanted that young audience, so he used his daughters and showed them the screen tests, and they picked me.
Wow.
It's, it's a lesson to be learned. All you can do is do your best because you don't know who's in control of who gets jobs.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible, and so that's so crazy to me because I think of Paul Verhoeven just is kind of like this kind of a legend, I'm like,
He
oh my
is.
God, Paul Verhoeven, and I guess it makes sense to a point, Well, this younger demographic maybe they would know better than me, but oh man, that's.
But I mean, I'm
what
sure
makes-
there were other things that went into it, but he ran those screen tests by his daughters, and that was one of the influencing factors in how I got that job.
Wow, that's.
And it was great fun. I had a ball.
Well, we had talked about some of the. Well, we were talking before, and you had talked about how you had felt like it was one of the last, I guess you'd call, practical effect films of that era,
Rob Bottin, who was our special effects makeup guy, won a Special Academy Award for it. And in this piece, I had one of the major effects. I was a mutant, and I had this big arm, this fake arm,
huge arm, that
mutinous arm.
Oh,
and it was fabulous because it was real. It was a prosthetic that they made. When I put it on, I had to have my arm was either in the front or I'd never had broken a limb, so this is the first time I ever had a cast. I had a full body cast made from the upper body.
Wow.
And then I had this thing, and I had the arm. It was fixed onto me, and there were 7 people behind me just moving with every little lever. So everything went zzz, zzz, the fingers, and it all looked like me. It looked like a mutinous hand of my arm.
And it folded too, right? I remember it
Yes.
came up, or did you pull the hand off? Or
that was the greatest. The hand was really never attached. But Rob Bottin loved the special effects, and he loved the fact that he made the fingers move to make everybody think it was real. So when it started, the hand looked like it was attached, but I was really holding it, pressing it up to this thing, and the wires went through my real hand that was working. So when I moved it away, the fingers of the hand were moving, and then this mutinous thing broke out, and it was all, and I had to learn how to move my body so that it looked natural to this thing, and it was not CGI. It was real.
that was just incredible. Now, so I love that movie growing up, and I can picture all the sets in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I know some were miniatures, but where you were driving the cab and all that was all real.
We took over the entire studio, Churubusco Studios in Mexico, which was huge, and we had all the sound stages, and they built tunnels from each soundstage to soundstage, and it was all red dirt like Mars. And so I was just driving from soundstage through tunnels, through soundstages,
Wow.
through tunnels, and there was a scheduling snafu when I first got there, and I got there like a week or so before I was supposed to, and so somebody probably lost their job. But so I had time to learn how to drive those cars because I had 2 steering wheels.
Oh man,
and
they were real cars.
And I was sitting in between. They were a Volkswagen chassis, and so they made these. It was back in the day. They made these beautiful cars, and I had to lay in it, and I would just drive around the studio, and I would learn. And both wheels were functioning. It was actually a stick. I was like,
Oh man.
and I learned how to drive these things, and because it took a while, but I had 2 weeks of nothing to do, so I would just go down and get in the cars and drive. Now, there were several scenes in which the mole. There was that scene where the mole comes and the car just swerves and misses the
Yeah,
mole.
that huge
Yeah,
thing,
with
the
the
grinder.
screen,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We called it a mole, and no one ever named it in the film, but we said, "Oh, this is the mole." So when you have stunts like that, they have stunt drivers. Well, the stunt driver comes down a day before, so we only had three. They had three of those cars. The stunt driver came in and did that scene where he was just supposed to miss the mole. Take one, crash, crashed into the
No.
mole. One car down. The driver gets in the second car. Crashes into the mole. The people are freaking out. And they have one more car. And I went, yeah, I can drive
I can
that
drive
car.
this thing.
I can drive this thing. And they are now insurance, da-da-da-da. And so I go just like this. And they go, you sure? I said, I've been driving it for 2 weeks. And so I go in and they get my stunt double out. And they tell Arnold's stunt double to go get in the car. And Arnold goes, no, if Mel is going to drive the car, I'm going to be in it. So he wasn't gonna have a stunt driver in there. If I'm doing the stunt, he's gonna
do it.
Well, the powers that be were having a heart attack. Here you have your lead, you have the star of the movie in it with this guy who's, not
driving
a
next to a giant meat grinder machine.
So we get in that car, and I know what I'm doing. And we go, and we get as you can see, I get really close, and I go, zoom. Oh, man. And everybody cut. Yeah! And we did it like 3 more times. It was great, so that he
awesome.
could get. So it's one of those things where nothing was CGI. No, everything was exploding. They took it to Mexico because they could use naphthalene, which one step below napalm. When they were blowing that stuff up.
Wow.
I was really scared to death. I mean, because those explosions were going off in the background when I'm acting, and it was hysterical. Arnold was a very funny guy.
I was going to ask about that. I'm trying to picture what it was like to be on that set or interacting with him. Was he the kind of guy that, stayed in his trailer, jumped out,
Arnold had no entourage. He was very cool, extremely bright, and he wanted to keep the set light. And so here we're the first day of shooting. Now I'm a stage actor, basically. I'd done a couple of indie films, so we do this. Hey man, you need a cab? We do the first scene, and we're walking, and I hear cut. Mel, you got to get closer to Arnold. But I had just started using reading glasses, so when I was really close to him, he was blurry. So I backed up just a little, as we're walking, I backed up a little. Cut. Mel, you got to be close to to Arnold. I'm going, oh my God, it's my first day of shooting. I'm screwing up. We get cut 3, take 3 or whatever it was, and I just moved slightly back. Because I'm thinking on stage, I could have moved, across the thing.
A foot,
Slightly back. Cut. And Arnold goes, Mel, if you want to be in the movie, you have to stay close to me. The camera's going to be on me. I said, got it. So he really lightened the things up. And from that, and I mean, because all of my scenes are with him. So I knew I was going to be in the movie. I knew I wasn't going to be cut out of the movie.
Well, it's a cool part too, because it's not, it's a good supporting role. You're with the main character, and then also you're like the turncoat too. So there's a nice through line and depth to it, and then you get killed, Arnold. Screw you, Benny, and you get drilled.
Yes, in the mole. Yes, I get killed in the mole, and that was a hysterical day too, because these huge films, they were rewriting the script all the time, and the day we were supposed to shoot that death scene, the script didn't show up, so we improvised all of that, and this fucking piece of Martian bullshit, and I'm just going off, and so I had a metal, I had a metal vest on that was built, squibs of blood all over the place, and so it took the entire day. They just one day just to shoot that one scene, and they had smoke coming in there, and so the first day we did, the first take we did it. The squibs went off, the blood, blood.
That's when he's drilling you
He's
right through
drilling
the
me
side
out.
of the
Well,
thing.
here's the thing: the blood. I mean, it was blood flying everywhere, but there was too much smoke, so you didn't see it. So
Can't see it. Oh man.
so it was like I had to go shower. We had to put another costume, the whole 9 years. We did it again. We did it, and it was all day. And I mean, the blood was flying.
Yeah, because Verhoeven's known for this, like,
But the blood,
like buckets of blood,
So the producers of the film go, let's do one scene. Let's just do one take where there's no blood, where he just goes ah, and that's the take. That's
That's
in
the
the
take
movie,
years.
because they went. Oh, there's just too much blood in this movie. I said too much blood. The little blood that was going to be on me was going to take it over the it was a tipping point. I mean, you remember when what's his face, Richter gets
His hands
cut off
cut
in
off.
the elevator.
And he throws his arms down. That movie's so quotable. Where he's like, "See you at the party, Richter," and he throws the arms down.
And it was, it was, and of course, everywhere I used to go around the country, when that movie, and it happens to today. I mean, I was walking down Broadway today, and and this guy walks by. Oh, he's a movie star, Benny, and I just, kept on. I usually stop if I was running.
Is that okay though? I mean, because the character is obviously you're this accomplished Broadway actor, and you play there's this cab driver's obviously different personality than you.
But that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what we do, and it's great that they still remember that guy. That film was shot a long time ago, but because they show it on television a lot, and because it's science fiction, and the only thing that gives the year away is Sharon Stone's hairstyle. The hairstyle,
Right.
It's sort of the '80s hairstyle.
Yeah.
Everything else is timeless.
Right.
So I'm sure that's one of the reasons why they play it all the time.
Right.
And except for my short hair, I look almost exactly the same. So people do recognize a lot. And the funny thing about it is I was going up to New Hampshire once into a state fair or something, and I was walking around, and teenage boys, the first question they want to ask.
I can already think of it.
They'll ask, oh, was it real, or is it Memorex or not? And then one will get up and go, were they real?
I know what he's talking about.
And
The three boobs.
That's the first thing I say.
As soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh, I know what that. I know what that is."
I want to know which one was real.
No, and it was so funny. That's why Rob Bottin got that Academy Award.
Amazing.
Because
Amazing.
they were just so lifelike. They were all fake. They got a flat chested girl, and they were all fake.
Oh,
But they were. He found something that was real, and she was so hysterical. She had on fake boobs, all three of them fake, and she was acting like they were hers. And everybody was like, "Oh, you really can't." I was going, "They're fake." I mean, what are you getting all upset about? I mean, come
people
on.
are looking at your fake boobs.
And she's getting all protective and everything. And I think I made up that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was right.
Yeah.
We were screwing around.
I can see that in my head after you're talking about it.
So
movies that movie is just such a part of I don't know. I mean, came out in 1990. Such a part of my childhood, really. I mean, I was like a teenager,
Yeah.
But I probably know every scene from that film,
It was, and when we were making it, I had no idea that it was going to be this iconic piece. I was having a good time. We were all having a good time because Arnold made it, because Verhoeven is intense. I mean, Arnold would make jokes and they would go zoom right over his head, But every Monday, Arnold would host a Verhoeven film festival because I was on the film for 3 months. and he would show Verhoeven film, his Dutch films, and Paul would talk about them, and we had a great time, and they would throw a "We Almost Halfway There" party, and it was great.
Well, with films now, is that do you have a favorite role that you've done for film?
Well, that's the biggest one and the most memorable and the most one that I had the most fun on. And other than that, I've done smaller roles. But Benny was, because it was just so.
It's iconic. It's just
Yeah, and it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, Verhoeven didn't bother me. I mean, it was funny when he took a lot of takes. Now Verhoeven did a lot of takes, and he never said anything to me. So we were doing one, and you know how Benny was, energy,
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought, since he wasn't saying anything to me, I said, well, let me just bring it down a notch, try something different. And it was about take 16, 17. And I just brought the energy down a little. Mel, are you tired? Do you want to, And I went, no, I'm fine. I went right back up. Because he wanted that so that when I changed, it was that big change. And, and
Yeah.
that's what I did at the audition. And he wanted that change,
Right. Yeah. Right. It is like the reveal.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, what happened? I have 5 kids to feed. What happened to number 4? And then it just totally changed.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Wait, I had it backwards?
Yeah,
Oh,
I have 4. I have 4 kids. What happened to number 5?
Oh, yeah, sorry. What happened to
you
number
got
5?
me. Shit, man, I
I'm
didn't
not
even-
just married.
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome.